What's up, guys? I'm back. I'm sorry it took me so long. I don't know. This is like a pretty intimidating process. So you know what? Like, bear with me. I'm gonna nail it eventually. I'm still working on trying to edit things, trying to find a good spot for me to do this in my house. This is like the only spot that has good lighting, but all of our furniture and stuff is right here. So just work with me, y'all. I promise you, I'm gonna get this thing going eventually. So today we're going to be talking about some questions you guys have, some things that I just want to share with you about my pregnancy and my labor. And I'm going to start with the questions first. I have them written down right here. The first question was, how did you feel throughout your pregnancy? And for my pregnancy, for Asher, I didn't feel a single thing. Like, I was never nauseous. I was never sick. I slept pretty good up until the end, like when I was just big and uncomfortable. I never had any crazy weird pregnancy symptoms. Like, one of my best friend's mom had like mouth tumors. One of my best friends that's pregnant right now has her tongue is degrading because of the acid in food, and it's all just sparking from pregnancy. It's just crazy stuff. I never had any of that. I never really had cravings. The only thing I craved every now and then was apple juice, but that was really it. Like, it was never, I really just felt normal as far as health goes. Now, of course, you get a little bit more tired, you get a little bit achy the bigger you get, but that was completely it. Which I'm so thankful for, because I don't like being sick. I don't like being in pain. I really don't think anybody does, but I am the worst when it comes to that. No thank you, don't want it. The next question is, what was your biggest fear during pregnancy? So this is something that I had to talk to Zach and my mom about. Labor and childbirth in general is just something that is so scary when you really think about it. I mean, your body creates a human, a whole living being inside of another body for 9 months. And that's it. That's all it takes. 9 months. And here you go. Here's a person that can live up to 100 years. Wild to think about. But childbirth is such a dangerous thing. And of course, we have amazing medical professionals, but it is such a wild and intense thing for a body to go through. And I know, I'm a pessimist. I'm always going to think worst case scenario, because I like to prepare myself for the bad things that can happen. So one of my biggest fears was having something happen to the baby, or having something happen to me, or it having to be a choice between me or the baby. So something that, you don't want to think about, but you do, is what do you do in that situation? So I talked to Zach, and I decided that if it were the choice between me or the baby, and the baby would come out healthy, would have a good chance of living a good life, without any severe medical issues, I, in that situation, would want the baby to live and not me. I kind of just feel like I've lived enough life. There's no reason that I should be this person to make the selfish decision to take away this baby's life, who has done literally nothing wrong, is completely just innocent. Sorry, that gets a little weird to say out loud, because it's a pretty big decision. And of course, when Zach and I talked about this, he is not into talking about, of course, he doesn't want to talk about the bad things and, what can happen, but I do. So he was just like, why are you thinking like that? Nothing bad is going to happen to you. It's going to be fine. But I was like, okay, well, I'm just letting you know, this is what I want. Now, being that Zach and I are not married, the decision wouldn't be up to him. It would be up to my parents. So I had to talk to my mom, and I told her the same thing, and she kind of had a little bit of a different approach. She understood where I was coming from. And of course, that's a hard conversation to have with anybody, to basically tell them choose me to die versus this little bitty baby who you don't know and has never impacted your life yet. But But she took it very well, and she respected my decision, and, you know, she told me that if it came down to that, she would make sure that that is what would happen. So I think that is just one of the scariest things you can even think about, especially thinking about not being there for your child if something like that were to happen. But I knew that Zach and both of our families would very well take care of the baby, so I felt very comfortable with that decision. So yeah, that's that. That was my biggest fear, and I feel like that's a pretty common fear for any expecting mother. Okay, okay, next question. That question really just gets me. Okay, next question. How did you go into labor, and how did you know? So a week before I had Asher, I ended up going to the hospital because, when I wear makeup, a full face makeup, my nose starts dripping out of nowhere, and I feel like that's really gross, but I can't deal with it. So a week before I went into labor, I was at home, and all of a sudden this huge gush of blood came out of me, and I, right when it happened, said, "Oh my God, I think my water just broke." And before I could look down, Zach looked at me, and he was like, "Oh my God, there's so much blood." So of course, I looked down, and I am like covered in blood. The sheets are covered in blood. My whole mattress is soaked with blood. Like, it looks like a war zone. So I hurry up, jump in the shower, rinse off just to make sure it wasn't constant blood coming out of me. And we called the emergency room. It's like 10:30 at this time. It's pretty late. And I told him I think I was 37 weeks and 5 days at that point. So in the safe zone to have the baby. So I called and I said, "Look, like, I'm bleeding super bright red blood," which is a huge, like, no pun intended, red flag during pregnancy. I'm 37 and 5. Should I come in? What's going on? She kind of just said, "If you feel like you need to come in, you can. I'm not really sure what's going on. So if you want to come in, come in." So I go and I sit on the toilet, and I was just sitting there, and I see Zach like, "Jewel, what the hell just happened to you?" And seeing him freak out made me freak out. So I started shaking and like going super pale, and I was just like, I don't want to say I was going into shock, but like I was panicking, like something is not right, like we need to go. So we go to the emergency room. The same girl was at the desk, and she, you know, kind of was like, "I had a feeling you'd be coming." So they admitted me into a room, and the doctor on call came and hooked me up to all the little IVs, showed me how to read the chart with my contractions, and I was contracting every 2 minutes. So like, okay, you're contracting every 2 minutes, you would think like, okay, this is it. But I wasn't in pain. So I'm sitting there, and they're telling me like, "Okay, how do you feel?" And I was just like, "I'm fine." And you could feel like, I could feel my stomach tightening, but I was like, "I'm fine, I don't feel anything." And she was like, "Nothing at all." And then she showed me, "You're contracting 2 minutes apart." And I was like, "What?" What do you mean I'm contracting 2 minutes apart? So they checked me, and I was 3 centimeters dilated at that point. And they held me in there for, I guess it was about 3 hours. I think we left around 2. But while I'm sitting there, I'm looking at Zach, and Zach had fallen asleep, and I got so emotional. Like, I started crying, and all I could think was I wasn't ready yet. Like, I didn't know that was going to be our last day together, just us two. I didn't know that I was about to go through this excruciating process. It just really like spooked me out once I started to think about it. So I remember just sitting there and being like, "Please, like, let me go home and at least rest." Like, I didn't sleep yet. So I was like, "Can I please just," I'm talking to God, and I was just like, "Can I please just go home and sleep for a little bit? And then, you know, we can try this again in the morning. I'll be fine with that. But like, I need to just get some rest." So a little while later comes in, and they said that I wasn't making any more progress. So I was safe to go home and that everything would be fine. So I went home, and the next week goes by, And one of the things with pregnancy is you have these insane, vivid dreams, like super scary sometimes, super just like, it almost feels like in your head it's in HD, like it is just like super clear, like you feel like it's real life. And the day that I went into labor, I woke up from a dream that my parents' neighbor that lives across the street from them hired somebody to come take the baby out of my stomach. And it freaked me out so bad that I even texted my mom at 5 in the morning. Like, how ridiculous. I texted her at 5 in the morning and I was like, I just had a dream Miss Rachel tried to steal the baby. So we don't trust her anymore. So, and of course she doesn't answer me because I'm obnoxious and ridiculous, and she was on her way to work, so whatever. I get up to go use the bathroom, and right when I sit down, I get this super, like, indescribable, dull pain. Like, it just felt like a big period cramp, but it literally felt like my 2 pubic bones were being ripped apart, like a slow and almost like a, what are those things called, a crowbar, like just a slow pull. And Zach woke up because I woke up, and I looked at him and I was like, babe, I think this is it, like something hurts, and they say when it hurts, that's when you know. So I had a friend who was a nurse at the hospital that I was going to be delivering in, and we had been texting throughout the whole pregnancy, and I actually had texted her the night before just saying, like, I really hope it happens soon, blah blah blah. And she told me I'll be there starting the day that I went into labor for a whole week from this time to this time, so if anything happens, like, she was there, let the doctors know that I wanted her, like, whatever. So she must have been getting ready for work when I was up starting to feel this, because I texted her and she answered and she said, okay, go take an ibuprofen, go take a bath, count your contractions, and if they're less than 5 minutes apart for more than an hour, come in. So I go and I sit in the tub, and it's not letting up. Like, it is still super sharp, super sharp when I would contract, but I still had this really dull pain down in my vaginal area. So I texted my mom, it's like 6:30 now, and I said, what are you doing? And she calls me. She must have just been aware, I guess. She calls me and she was like, are you okay? And I said, no, I think it's gonna happen today. So she was like, are you taking a bath? You know, I told her what my friend had said, and she was like, are you in the tub? And I was like, yes. Are you okay? Yes. And I just said, like, it hurts. Like, she said, once it hurts, that's when it's happening. So she just said, go lay down. If it still hurts, then you go in. So I kept getting in and out of the tub. Like, I would get out and then it would start hurting a little bit more, but it felt better being in the warm water. So I got back in. And then I would get out and it would start hurting again. So I got back in. And finally, by the 3rd time, I was like, okay, I'm going to go try to lay down like my mom said. And as soon as my whole body hit the bed and my head hit the pillow, I got this, probably the worst one I'd had all day, like through the entire day. I got this crazy painful contraction. And Zach was trying not to freak out because he saw how bad he freaked me out the week before. So he's just sitting there, like, playing these little video games, made sure everything was ready to go in case this was the day. And I looked at him and, like, I hit the bed, got the contraction, I popped right back up, and I was like, no, we're going, like, I'm not doing this. So we go into the hospital. They put us back into the emergency room because I didn't have an appointment for another 2 days. So we go through the emergency room. I sat there from about 9:30 to 11. And by 11, I had contracted enough to dilate me to 4 centimeters, which is a go. So they put me in my room. I got my friend as my nurse, and she took care of me the whole way. I did get an epidural, which, if you don't like being in pain, y'all, do it. Just do it. They handled me so well. They sat me on the side of the bed, kind of like this, and I was like in direct view of a mirror, and I scooted over so I didn't have to see the needle because I didn't want to. I thought that would freak me out. And they held me by my shoulders just in case it hurt, and it never hurt me. It kind of, it just feels like a little pinch, like a normal shot would, which is not a shot, but when a needle goes into your skin, that's what it felt like. And as they were going to, so get the epidural, beautiful, can't feel anything, feels marvelous. They come to see if they can break my water because my water hadn't broke yet. So as the doctor comes in, who is the same doctor that I had in the emergency room, so she like kind of was a little bit familiar with me. She comes in because my doctor was out of town, and we go to, they put you in like a frog position, so like the bottoms of your feet are put together and you pull your legs up. Well, right when I pulled my legs up, when they were about to like go in and see if they could break the water, my water broke. And my friend and the doctor were like, okay, well, that was easy. We'd never seen that before. So I sat with kind of airborne, I guess, like my body was like receiving the air from the water breaking. I don't know if that makes sense. Like they didn't have a barrier anymore. So I ended up running fever for most of the time. I think I started running fever around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't stop till around 6 in the next morning, which was a little scary because, you want to make sure that nothing's wrong with the baby. But we were all good. Around, I want to say 8 o'clock. It didn't feel like it was that late, and I didn't feel like I pushed for this long, but around 8 o'clock I started pushing, and at 9:53 my son was born. But the whole time I'm pushing, so like my mom, Zach's mom, and Zach was in the room with me, and the whole time that I'm about to push, Zach's mom is doing jumping jacks. Zach is like, yes, let's go, like I'm so excited, and my mom is just crouching, looking, like freaking out, but trying not to freak out. So I have Zach's mom on the side of the bed, Zach at the bottom with the doctor, and I look, and my mom is like all the way across the room, and I'm like, I'm ready, but I'm super anxious. So I look at my mom, and I was like, what are you doing over there? Like, get over here. So she comes and she starts like petting my head, and I can hear her sniffling because she's crying because she's so scared. And I start pushing, and Zach, this is the funniest part, Zach starts jumping up and down and is just like, come on, baby, let's go. Like every time I go into a push, come on, baby, let's go. You got this. Like, let's go. And I come out of a push, and I'm like, you're not at a hockey game. Like, shut up, calm down. And he was like, hockey? Really, Jewel? And I don't know. Like, I don't know where hockey came from. I don't watch hockey. I don't play hockey. I don't know. It just came out of my mouth. And he was like, well, okay then. And it kind of like settled down a little bit. But it was awesome. He came out, and I didn't know he even came out till he hit my chest. Like, I expected it to feel like, you feel all the pressure even with the epidural, and I expected it kind of to feel like, I don't know, like just a big burst of like a relief, like big bubble bursting or something. Like I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I expected to like at least know when his head came out, and his whole body comes out, and I have no idea. And he hits my chest and starts crying, and I just was like, oh, you're here, like, oh my gosh. And they wiped him off a little bit, took him, started to clean him off, delivered my placenta. Okay, sorry, my camera stopped recording. So they delivered my placenta, they stitched me up. I did have 2nd-degree tears, and I tore on the right side of my labia and brush burn on the left. So, but any mom can tell you that day, the day that you meet your child and the day that you deliver, is like such a euphoric day. Like, it is like indescribable. Like, even looking back on it, it is absolutely the best thing that has ever happened to me, the best day of my life. And it's just awesome. Like, any of my friends who have had children can vouch for me. Like, it is like, despite any pain, despite any issues you run into, it is the best day in the entire world, and I'm super thankful to have gotten to experience that. So that's it for this week's video. Sorry it's a little lengthy. I'm gonna work on kind of trimming my videos down. But thank y'all for watching. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the people who are like, where's the next video? Because it's because of y'all I really made this. So I'm not sure what my next video is gonna be about, but there will be a next video, I promise. So if you guys want to know anything or want to talk about anything, let me know and we can talk about it. So just like and subscribe. Don't be mean. You know the deal. Bye.